given to him, and then he formulates that. So I am not of the view that he is putting his ideas on all of us and then making us to do that. Instead, he is not even the ministers. Government secretaries during the last 8 years of Prime Minister Modi ji's governance, in the entire independent India, never would have government secretaries got an opportunity to interact with Prime Ministers, because he feels that the political input is required as well as the technical input.
Now, can you imagine, Anand, this is for the first time, I think any Prime Minister anywhere in the world, who is every month directly interacting with the chief secretaries of the states.
Yes.
That Pragati program.
Yeah.
Which happens last Wednesday every month. I think the first unprecedented, unheard of, because he has a huge creative mind. He's always innovating.
And he also wants to understand the administration or the technical aspect.
And the Man Ki Baat.
Yeah.
And the MyGo.
Final question, sir. Start with you and then Dr. Jitendra Singh. What to expect in 2023? It's the new year, so to all our viewers also, what would you like to say?
I would say that this year, looking at the international level, India is going to be we are having the presidency of the G20.
Yeah.
And India's presidency of the G20, it will be people's G20. Prime Minister has said that this G20, unlike any other G20 meetings happened in the past of any other country, this is going to be in 56 locations of the country.
Yeah.
And India's diversity, India's democratic credentials, this will be on display. So this is going to be the leadership of India getting established across the world. And definitely, people getting involved in global affairs. And India will be trying to showcase some of the strengths of India, whether it is, as Prime Minister mentioned, India being the mother of democracy, or whether it is the technology that has been now utilized, the digital transformation that is happening, the activities in the field of health or agriculture. All these things will get again examined and then put before the whole world, so that Indian society gets integrated with what is happening across. So definitely it's going to be a great year for India.
I know it's people's G20, but they're also saying the BJP and the PM will milk it for Lok Sabha 2024. That's a criticism.
See, that is a problem. See, opposition feels that if Prime Minister turns to the left side, they will say why he is not turning to the right. If he turns to the right side, he will say why he is not turning to the left side. So whatever he does, they will find some fault.
So you're going to leave it there. Politics will happen. Sir, 2023, what to expect?
First, to add to what Modi ji is saying, of course, G20 is going to be the hallmark of 2023, and it's not only going to showcase India's prowess, India's capacity, also the individual culture, because we are a heterogeneous nation. We have this unique, exclusive feature.
I will give one more suggestion. It is also a year of the millets. Where small farmers will be taken.
And the year of the millets has been suggested by India. So
correct.
Second achievement after International Day for Yoga, which was also suggested by India and accepted by UNO. This is the second time happening during the Modi regime. So and I think G20 now that India is part of a global world, the parameters of growth are global, the challenges are global, the concerns are global, the redressal of these challenges also has to be with a global effort. Prime Minister Modi has shown the way of integration, synergism to the whole world. And 2023 is going to vindicate, as I said, world is ready to be led by India. Globe is ready to be led by India. And this is an occasion for us to vindicate ourselves that yes, we are under Modi ready for that role. And as 23 comes to end, there will be huge excitement about 24 when our Gaganyaan is going to, land its first Indian through an indigenous mission on the surface of the moon.
2023 comes to a close. We're also going to see Ram Mandir will happen. And then, of course, the entire crescendo build up to 2024. V. Muralidharanji, Dr. Jitendra Singh, wonderful having this conversation.
Thank you, Anand, and thanks for bringing us together.
Happy New Year, and thank you very much.
Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Growing legacies. Powered by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. SMS star to 56677.
Good evening. You're watching Brass Tacks with me, Anusha Soni. India's star wicketkeeper and batsman Rishabh Pant met with a major accident as his Mercedes collided with a divider. He fell asleep while driving, which caused the accident. Pant was travelling from Delhi to Uttarakhand. The cricketer has suffered injuries on his back, forehead and leg. He is currently receiving treatment at the Max Hospital in Dehradun. Fortunately, he is stable, recovering well. We tell you all about the story, the chain of events, how it unfolded and much more. One of the most crucial aspects of this accident is how it affects the career of Rishabh Pant and how soon he can get back on the field. First up, a special report.
This is the moment when cricketer Rishabh Pant met with a horrific accident near Roorkee. His Mercedes collided with a divider and caught fire while he was travelling from Delhi to Uttarakhand. Pant was alone in the car and dozed off while driving.
देख सकते हैं तस्वीरों में जिस तरह से गाड़ी का जो हाल है, इस गाड़ी के हाल को देख करके ये अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि हादसा कितना भयानक था। और हादसे के बाद जब इसमें आग लगी तो शायद गाड़ी की जो तस्वीर है इससे अनुमान लगा लीजिए कि कुछ भी गाड़ी में बचा नहीं है।
Pant had to break the windscreen to escape from the vehicle after it caught fire and burned to ashes.
सुबह 5 बजे की घटना है।
अच्छा, क्या पता चला आपको? फिर आपने
पहले आवाज़ आई जोर से, फिर उसके बाद जैसे मैं बाहर निकला तो गाड़ी में आग लगी हुई थी।
अच्छा,
तब तक मैं वहाँ पे पहुँचा गाड़ी के पास। एक गाड़ी और रोडवेज थी हरियाणा की, वो भी रुकी थी। 2 बंदे बाइक वाले थे, फिर काफ़ी हो गए थे। तब उन्होंने निकाल लिया गाड़ी, शीशा तोड़ के उनको। गाड़ी
में उस समय आग लगी हुई थी?
गाड़ी में आग लगी हुई थी।
This video of Pant right after the accident shows him bleeding but otherwise conscious. He had 2 cuts on his forehead. He suffered a ligament tear on his right knee and hurt his right wrist, ankle and toe. He also has abrasion injuries on his back. Despite all this, his condition remains stable and he's been shifted to a hospital in Dehradun.
क्रिकेटर ऋषभ पंत अभी हॉस्पिटल में आए हैं और इनिशियली डॉक्टर्स की टीम उनकी देखभाल कर रही है, अंडर इवैल्यूएशन है वो, और कुछ जांचों के बाद ही हम आगे डिटेल बता पाएंगे। और फिलहाल वो स्थिर हैं और ऐसी कोई चिंता की बात अभी लग नहीं रही है।
Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Dhami spoke to Pant after the accident and said the cost of his treatment will be borne by the state.
लोगों से बात कर ली है ना, अच्छा इलाज करेंगे, अच्छी चिकित्सा वगैरह सब अच्छा होगा। तो आप चिंता मत करिएगा, मेरी शुभकामनाएं हैं ना, जल्दी ठीक हो जाएगा, घबराइएगा नहीं।
Pant has been India's regular wicketkeeper across all formats, but was recently dropped from the T20I team announced for the series against Sri Lanka. According to the police, he was lucky to survive today's crash.
Well, to discuss more about the story, joining us on the broadcast is Anurag Kulshrestha, who is the founder-president of Tracks Road Safety NGO. Harpal Singh Bedi, he's a senior sports journalist, is also joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Mandeep Singh Bajaj, who's a senior orthopedic from the Primus Hospital, is also with us on the show. Vimal Kumar, who's a senior sports journalist and author, is also joining us. We're also expecting Rajinder Amarnath, the former cricketer, to join us in just a bit. Dr. Bajaj, coming to you first. Prima facie, looking at the nature of injuries, fortunately, they're not as severe as they could have been. By God's grace, he's recovering well, very stable, but he's a cricketer at the end of the day. How long could a recovery really take?
So, good evening. Thank you for inviting me to your show. The thing is, Rishabh thankfully didn't have any head injury. That is the most important aspect of his accident today, that he survived this and he didn't have any head injury. Coming to the other injuries, he has got major injuries in the back, which are basically abrasions and lacerations. They will probably need some suturing and plastic surgery in near future rather, and probably they will heal in around 4 to 6 weeks time. The other part of the injury is that he has got major knee injury, which is being reported as he has got ligamentous injury in his right knee. So that thing has to be seen whether it is a single ligament injury or it's a multiple ligamentous injury. So recovery depends upon how severe the knee injury is. If it is a single ligament injury and per se, if he needs any surgical intervention for his knee, the total recovery time for that could be somewhere around from 6 weeks to 3 months. depending upon how severe the injury is.
Yeah, yeah.
But most likely he will be under rehabilitation for 3 months, and then gradually he can return to his sports slowly.
All right. Vimal, how big of a loss this would be? I mean, presuming it takes anything between 3 to 6 months or 9 months for Rishabh Pant to get back on the field. And we really hope to see him back on the field as soon as possible. But yes, for any cricketer, this is missing out on a lot of opportunities. Vimal.
Anusha, rightly see, if when the news broke out in the morning, everyone was worried how serious or severe that injury was. And the moment that we got as the news developed and the BCCI also intervened, now we all know that he's out of danger. So obviously, cricket was not priority, because everyone was thinking that how if Rishabh is safe. So by God's grace, that part is. So I think later on, because we still do not have the exact clarity, but it looks like, as the fellow Pele doctor is saying, that he might miss couple of. So immediately, maybe because Rishabh in any case was not going to play the T20 white ball series against Sri Lanka, he was not part of that team. Maybe New Zealand series not as big important, but I think from Team India's point of view, his presence against Australia, 4 Test match series which they are coming in the second half of February, that was very important, because Rishabh Pant right now is the #1 batsman for India. I'm telling you, people may not believe it, he is ahead of Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma as far as Test matches are concerned. His record speaks for that. If you remember, he just recently rescued Team India from a certain defeat. In 37 Test matches, he has missed nearly 700. So that itself, people are debating whether Rishabh Pant is all-time great. He's in the league of Adam Gilchrist. So no praise can be as higher as you being compared to Gilchrist. Something which Mahendra Singh Dhoni has never been compared in red ball cricket Test matches. So if Rishabh Pant, because of this injury, misses the Australia Test series or couple of matches, that will be a terrible blow. Not the ODI or white ball series against Australia, against the New Zealanders or Sri Lanka.
All right. Harpal Singh Bedi, coming to you. As Vimal interestingly is pointing out, in Test cricket, this is a stellar career which has been built compared to the likes of Adam Gilchrist. And if he misses the another one, this will be a big loss to the cricketing world, to Rishabh Pant personally, and of course to all his fans as well. Mr. Bedi.
See, one good thing is that he survived. The second good thing is stable. As Dr. Saab has explained what is going to happen or what is not, because I have no knowledge about it. I am not a medical student, so I have no clue. But as far as my journalist career tells me that he will not be the same again. Whatever you may say this, once you get such a serious injury, I know this player, hockey player Jugraj Singh, even though who is a minister now, Sandeep Singh, cricketers, so many cricketers or athletes who suffer such injuries, they try to come back, but in back of their mind, this injury linger on. And the opponents also know that this man is not the same, because he will be very careful in future. And everybody has to be careful, but he will not be that daredevil, and even the team will not take a risk. So he will survive. God bless him with a long life. He deserves to be there. He will play cricket, but whatever Vimal said, he will not be in the same Rishabh Pant now again in future, because this is a natural. And you can ask the doctors also, once you suffer such a grievous injuries, and you have gone through this trauma, it is very difficult to come back and be a normal self in the sense on the field. Normal he will be. He will be good. He will be thanking his stars that he survived such a crash.
Dr.
But
Bajaj,
as my 30 or 40 years of sports journalism, I've seen so many players trying to come back after
recovery,
but they will never be same again.
They will never be same again. That's a,
a
lot of us, sir, had this fear in our head, but perhaps we were not saying it. You've said it. I want to take that to Dr. Bajaj as well. Dr. Bajaj, do you agree with what Mr. Bedi is saying? That he will recover, he'll be fine, God willing, he'll come back very soon. But it becomes very difficult for cricketers and sports person to be exactly the same.
Let me tell you, it's still a half-baked cake. So we still doesn't know what exactly are his knee injuries, frankly speaking. We don't know how many ligaments are injured, which ligament is injured, whether he needs any surgery for that or not. That will be decided in due course of time. And let me tell you, most of the soccer players get ligamentous injuries in their career, and they definitely go back to the field. they get these ligamentous surgeries done 3 to 4 times in their career, and still they are probably able to achieve near normal of their capacity in future.
All right, point
with
taken.
good
No,
rehabilitation.
point taken.
And
That,
the way
point taken that we still don't know the exact nature of injuries. And in all fairness, Mr. Bedi also said that he's not a medical expert, and he can only speak from the experience that he has had as a journalist observing a lot of sports people and cricketers. Mr. Kulshresht, I'm coming to you and talking about a very different aspect to this entire case. We were doing the same story at around 6 p.m. today, and there were a lot of people and callers talking about whether this is a case of overspeeding. The fact that we have one of the highest rates of accidents on highways in our country is another very, very worrying factor. Rishabh Pant said that he fell asleep while driving. So many people are also saying that, perhaps he should have been more careful. When you see these first images coming in, we'll have to wait for the black box to come out. Only then we'll know what exactly really happened. But prima facie, the images and the anecdotal evidence that you've seen, what does it indicate to you?
Anusha, I think we forgot all these things like son of Mr. Azharuddin, Rajesh Pilot, Sahib Singh Verma, Gopinath Munde, Jaspal Bhatti. We, I think, forgot everything, and we start keeping on discussing for the further upcoming events. I'll say events because frankly I'm saying in our country we all love number of celebrities are there who got suffered or who passed away. But what happened after that? What's the precaution we must take? What are the measurements we should take after each and every death or in major injuries? On that we never focuses, our country never focuses, and we start provoking the people for speeding, that is for over speeding. 3 घंटे का सफर 1 घंटे में, अब रफ्तार से दौड़ेंगी गाड़ियां. These are the certain provocative measurements taken against road safety, against the health of all the road users, because these things are provoking us for the over speeding. That's not a matter. Rishabh Pant, very like an elite person, he knows everything do and don'ts, like in cricket. No balls and white balls and everything is there. But in case of driving, because driving is basically the adventurous thing, it's a glamorous thing. People used to do over speeding. They never follow the traffic rules and regulations and the safety norms about this. Number 2, why it is happening? Because we don't have any umpire in our country for that, all these things. We all used to celebrate, we all the celebrities, we the speakers, we all discuss about the happenings. But we never come together
but
to
Mr.
make a demand against all
drive
these things.
To drive you to the moot point or the brass tacks of it, what exactly are the learnings you think we can have from the earlier instances or episodes or accidents that we have seen that you'd like to share with our viewers and panelists here?
Yeah, actually the same thing I'm saying here. Okay, once the anything is happening in front of us, we must understood to the measurements to be taken in future. We all have to create the demand, but we never create the demand in our society. Where the enforcement? If we are creating 40 kilometers road in a day, where is the enforcement? Why the people are over speeding on our highways? Mr. Gadkari is saying just 4-5 days back, there are 65% accidents are happening on our highways and expressways.
And a major
what
chunk,
is the measurements we are taking?
And the major chunk of people who are suffering because of these accidents are young people between the age group of 18 to 35. That's another very, very worrying factor that has come to light. Mr. Kulshresht, very briefly from you, does this seem a case to you of overspeeding? Is that what you're implying?
Yes, 100%. When I see the view, it must be, I think, 140 and 140, maybe over 140 also. Because now one more thing is there. Why people are doing over speeding? We do have the roads at the speed of 120 or less than that. But why there's a like number 400 at our dashboard in the speedometer? Why it is so? This is also provoking us. Yes, I can go up to a speed of like 150, 170, 200, 300. Number of cases have happened. Just recently one case was happened when the people were, doctors and all, they were racing. They were speeding the car and they were just communicating. it's now 250, it's now 280, it's now 300 because we are providing the chances of crashes, chances of
No, sir.
overspeeding.
I do take.
think
I
there
do
must
take.
be a
There,
speed
there
governor.
has to be some checks and balances which are put there. And you're right that the statistics and data tell us that when it comes to road accidents, especially accidents on highway, it's a very worrying scenario which is emerging. With the expanding infrastructure, there is need for some kind of enforcement mechanism as well. Going back to Vimal, who continues to be with us on the broadcast. Vimal,
Anusha, can I add one more thing?
30 seconds, sir. Please go ahead.
Just 30 seconds. If you have heard about the statement of Mr. Bhargava of this MD, this chairman of Maruti, just 5-6 days back, he was saying that just don't focus on our cars, focus on enforcement and this infrastructure. There was a hue and cry over there, everywhere. He is pointing out the same thing. Strict, stringent enforcement on our roads.
I take that point. Vimal, I want to come to you and I want to take that point forward that Harpal Singh Bedi was also making, that whenever an accident of this nature happens, it becomes very difficult for the cricketer or the sports person to be the same again. Is that the fear in your mind as well? Has that also been your experience as a sports journalist covering this particular segment for years?
I think we can't generalize this thing because even cricket we talk about, we on-field collision. Like I remember the Australian cricketer Steve Waugh and Jason Gillespie, colliding while taking a catch, and it was severe. And everyone feared they will never be the same cricketer. And there have been instances, even the cricketing injuries, somebody suffered his back or shoulder. These are injuries are part and parcel. Obviously, the nature of injuries when you suffer while playing during your playing career, the nature of injury, whether it's a cricketing injuries, player know that they will come back. This is a different kind of injury. It will have its psychological impact.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the kind of cricketer, the fearlessness, and we must, whatever happened, I don't want to go into that, who was right or wrong, whether he was over. I don't have the details. But I admire his cricketing intelligence. The moment it happened, he broke the glasses, came out, called the ambulance. He had that sensitivity and intelligence to rescue himself. The kind of role he has played for Team India whenever India has been in crisis situation, and he has rescued the team. And the same kind of learning he held himself. So maybe I don't think because his willpower is very strong. We don't know. At this stage, is a little too early,
Absolutely, it's too early to to draw any kind of conclusions. I agree with you. Mr. Rajinder Amarnath, the former cricketer, is also joining us on the broadcast. Rajinder ji, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. I want to take the point forward that Vimal was talking about when it comes to Rishabh Pant and the stellar, wonderful career he has had, especially in Test cricket. If he misses, any of the next innings, any of the next seasons or the tournament which is scheduled to happen, it's a loss for the cricketing world. We hope he recovers very, very soon, but it will take few months for him to get back on the track. Your thoughts as far as his journey and the fact that he might be able to, he might be missing a couple of tournaments which are lined up for the next few months.
Well, first of all, I would like to say, thank God he's alive.
Yeah.
Because an accident of this magnitude, worse could have happened. He's in the hospital, he's under treatment, and hopefully he'll recover from the treatment. And having said about the car accident, my memories go back to England when Tiger Pataudi also met with an accident. Way back in the 60s, he lost his eye.
Yeah.
And so did Colin Melbourne, another cricketer from England. He also met with a car accident and lost one of his eye. I hope his eyesight has not been affected. That's of prime importance to me. And secondly, like having the modern days vehicle, which has got all safety measures, the opening up of airbag would have definitely saved him, although one can see a lot of injuries on his back and other areas. Now, what really affects a cricketer is not the injury. It is the after-injury thoughts. Because once you start recovering, mentally how strong you're going to be, that's going to take you out from this terrible accident. And doctors may have told you, I'm not too sure because I haven't heard the program, because injuries take time to heal.
Yeah.
And definitely India are going to miss him. He's been a fantastic cricketer as far as
doctors
batting
are
is
saying
concerned,
anything between
wicket-keeping
3
is
to 6
concerned.
months, not before that.
So 6 months could be healing of injury.
Yeah,
It's
healing of
aftermath I'm talking about, because the injuries can not affect a cricketer. He's a brave cricketer, I know. He's a young cricketer also.
Yeah.
Cricketers in the past have been hit and they've come out from those injuries. But mentally, how strong he's going to be.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to affect him against a cricket ball, because that's a different injury you get, which affects your batting on the field. This is a different injury.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll have a good advice coming from various doctors who are involved in such kind of injuries.
Yeah.
And India gets him back maybe after a year or two. But will he be able to get back into the team after 2 years? Maybe, maybe not. It's difficult to say at this moment, but yes. I personally feel the board should take care of him. If treatment is required abroad, he should be sent abroad, like many cricketers have been sent in the past. And all kind of medical help should be given to him.
Mr. Bedi, I want to take that point that Mr. Rajendra Amarnath was making. The mental or the psychological implications of such accident and injury. One thing is to physically recover. But what's your assessment? What kind of psychological implications it has on a cricketer or any sports person?
I think Rajendra has explained very well.
Yeah.
My point was not the injury on the field.
Sure.
Remember this, on the field, everybody expects. Hockey player, football, the tackle, the knee injury, Gavaskar, sometimes he was injured, he was proudly showing that he's injured. So that injury sometimes is shown. Look, I am suffering, but I will recover. But as Rajendra said, and very well, I think he explained the whole thing. The injury suffered in this accident is totally different than the injuries you suffer on the field. On the field, everybody is prepared. Now, if you get a cut on on your nose or your head or something, you know that this is going to happen. And sometimes you take it very lightly also. Yeah, this is a part of the game.
Yeah.
But to survive, and as Rajendra put it, thank God he's alive and he's stable. That whole thing shatters your confidence. The difference between the injuries which you suffer on the field and which you suffer in such accidents.
Sure.
Now, again, examples were given by Patowdy and Colin Melbourne. But those exceptions are always there in life. People fall from 10th floor and still nothing happens, and people fall from 1 floor and they die.
Yeah.
The exceptions are there. But overall, what I have seen is that these type of, what happens is that opponent, now when you're playing in a competitive cricket, very high, fiery competitive cricket, other chap is not going to leave you because you are injured. He will try to hit you on a particular place. This happens in every sport. When you are knee injured, that your knee is targeted, your leg is injured, your leg is targeted by opponent. So same thing, whether he will be able to. I have not been able to explain my intention of telling you is that he suffered a different injury, not on the field.
Sure.
On the field, Rajendra will explain to you that so many people and even women will tell you all the players that suffered.
I have last 2 minutes.
That we suffered and we recovered. But this accident, this is a nightmare for him. Nightmare for him.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, it's a nightmare for all of us. We saw those images and it was a major accident. We will have last 2 minutes on the show. The point made by Mr. Rajendra Amarnath and also Mr. Bedi, that this is not an injury on the field. It happened off the field. And one thing is to, recover, physically heal. The other is to come into your form once again back. And it has psychological and physiological both factors to it. What does your experience tell you?
I think obviously, see, the kind of injury, especially what has happened, it will not be, even if like Rishabh Pant, he has been a fearless cricketer, we know, on the field. But obviously this will take some time. But let's just hope. I think at this stage it's a little too early to speculate on that. But if misses the Australia series, that purely from cricket point of view, that will be a big blow for Team India.
It will be a big blow for Team India. Well, as I end this discussion, I want to say on behalf of all of you as well that we hope that Rishabh Pant recovers very, very soon. We'll get to know the cause of the accident as well once the black box and there's a proper inquiry that happens. And yes, lessons for all of us from any kind of untoward situation like that. Hope he's out soon and back on the field very, very soon. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast and being a part of this show. Well, moving on to another important story of the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mother, Hiraba, passed away today early morning. The nation pays its respect to the departed soul and fondly cherishes the journey of Hiraba, whose life was a living testament of simplicity, sacrifice, and many such virtues. In her 100th year, she went to the heavenly abode. Like any other son, the Prime Minister was by the side of his mother in her last days. He finished the last rites and then returned to his duties as the Prime Minister in no time. Here's a special report as we track this journey.
This emotional tweet from Prime Minister Modi early on Friday morning, announcing the death of his mother and his pillar of strength, Hiraba. Hiraba Modi was undergoing treatment at the UN Mehta Heart Hospital, where she had been admitted since Wednesday. She breathed her last around 3:40 a.m. on Friday. As the country mourned the passing away of Hiraba, a grief-stricken Prime Minister landed in Ahmedabad to bid farewell to his mother. He went straight to her house in Gandhinagar, where just a few weeks ago, during the Gujarat elections, he had visited Hiraba and had taken her blessings. But today, Prime Minister Modi paid his last respects as his mother's body lay in state. With folded hands, he bowed his head at her feet. He then proceeded to carry her mortal remains on his shoulder for the last rites. As Hiraba's body was placed in an ambulance for her final journey, Prime Minister Modi was right by her side. In his stoic silence, the heartbreak and irreparable loss was felt by the whole nation. Prime Minister Modi led the funeral procession to the crematorium in Gandhinagar. The last rites were attended by close family and friends, including former Gujarat Chief Minister Shankar Singh Waghela, who consoled Prime Minister Modi and embraced him. Holding back tears, Prime Minister Modi set fire to his mother's funeral pyre. And then, with folded hands, he paid his final respects to a woman who embodied a life of simplicity and purity. And as a fitting tribute to her, Prime Minister Modi got right back to work hours after Hirabai's funeral, virtually flagging off the Vande Bharat Express in West Bengal.
आज मुझे आप सबके बीच रूबरू आना था, लेकिन मेरे निजी कारणों के कारण मैं आप सबके बीच नहीं आ पाया हूं। इसके लिए मैं आपकी बंगाल की क्षमा चाहता हूं।
Prime Minister Modi called Hiraba a symbol of selflessness and described her life as one dedicated to values. She was not just an inspiration to him, but for the whole country.
Well, a journey, a life of simplicity, sacrifice, and how silently Hiraba continued her journey. She raised her family, she raised her sons, and one of them ended up becoming the Prime Minister of the country. And despite the fact that her son was a Prime Minister, she continued with her life as usual, living with the same simplicity and grace. Discussing more about this journey, we have our guest with us on the broadcast, Savio Rodrigues, who's the founder of Goa Chronicles, also an author. Ajay Omat, who's a senior journalist, is also joining us on the broadcast. Geeta Bhatt, who's an academician. Tushar Gupta, the senior editor of Swarajya magazine, will join us in just a bit. Geeta ji, coming to you first. The journey of Hiraba is a testament of a journey, as I said earlier, of simplicity, grace and sacrifice. She also exemplifies that despite the fact that your family or your family members may acquire power and position, you can continue to be simple and subtle in your ways.
Yes, absolutely true. I think, we have been seeing since morning that, tributes have been pouring from not only just within the country, but from across the globe to the sad demise of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's mother. And we all know that mother is the first guru or the first teacher for every person, and her going, the kind of void and emptiness that it creates, it is something which is very difficult to fill, and definitely must be a very, very sad moment for the Prime Minister and his family, and not only just that, but for the whole country, because Hiraba was, she lived a very struggling life, but a very principled life. And and the principles that she followed in her life, the truthfulness with which she lived, that is something which she instilled in her children, and that we could see, to how to lead a righteous and a virtuous life. That has been an inspiration that we have been seeing, and seeing her, seeing her son being at one of the most powerful positions in the country, and yet being at the periphery of that lifestyle and not actually being there. We have seen many political leaders in the country where we have seen their immediate family, being a part of or rather, enjoying the fruits of being at a very powerful position. But if you look at the Prime Minister, and we have seen his mother, she used to come and visit him sometimes, spend some quality time with her son. But never has she been there, being a part of, not only just now when he became the Prime Minister, even when he was the Chief Minister.
Yeah.
Even at that time, she was not staying there, with him in the official bungalow, but with her other sons. And leading a normal day-to-day life. We have seen her, traveling in auto rickshaw.
Yeah.
Just like,
or
normal
standing
people
in queues,
do.
yeah. Or standing
in queues. Standing in queues. I think that itself, this is the kind of lifestyle that she lived, and the way, her son has been leading the country.
I remember, Geeta ji, there was this very emotional address by the Prime Minister where he spoke about the odd jobs Hiraba had to do to raise the entire family and to make sure that everybody was comfortable. Savio, coming to you and talking about this journey. For me, Hiraba's journey and her life exemplifies the life of millions of women who work very hard to raise their family, to raise their children, to give them better education, give them the best. And this is a sacrifice they make without any noise, without any kind of cacophony. And look what the sacrifice has yielded. It has yielded into somebody becoming the Prime Minister of our country and leading this country for 2 terms.
The most important thing for us to understand is that Hiraben Modi was a mother that has shaped India's future silently. And that's exactly the eulogy that I've done in the Goa Chronicle. Now, why do I say that? You have many prominent people in the world, and one of the most prominent in India at this point of time is Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But the successes attributed to Prime Minister Narendra Modi must have had an origin, must have had a seeding. And that seeding that was done by his mother, Hiraben Modi. The values that she carried, the importance of life and the principles that she carried has been automatically transmitted to Narendra Modi. And that is why, as a leader today, Narendra Modi is not somebody who has espoused wealth or grandeur or greatness. What he is really working on is progress of India as a mission. And that has been instilled by his mother. You have to look at her life of simplicity.
Sure.
We focus mostly on the people who become successful, but we focus very little on the people who lead to that success.
Yeah.
And that success that Prime Minister Modi has achieved, coming from the humble beginnings that he has been because of the values inculcated by his mother in him. Today, you can take any political leader in this country over the years that they've been around, and you see the way family politics has been governing India. I am telling you, when Prime Minister Modi leaves his prime ministership in some years, he's not going to take that wealth that so many people think that they acquire by being politicians, because that's not his intent. And that's clearly visible in the way his mother behaved, in the way his mother lived her life. And today, when we look at ourselves, we have to look at Hiraben Modi as an inspiration to all women. Because there are countless, as you rightly said, there are countless mothers who sacrifice so much of their lives, bringing up their children to become successful men and women in this world.
And you rightly said,
Savio,
that we celebrate winners, we celebrate people who are successful. But rarely do we celebrate the silent work done by the people behind, the cameras or behind the curtains. And most of the times, those are our mothers who have done the difficult job, the never-ending job of giving us the right values, the right reasons as to how you should move forward in our life. Ajay Amarji, I'm coming to you Tushar is also now with us on the broadcast. The Prime Minister went back to work in no time. Yes, there were certain political pot shots also that were taken, but I don't want to talk about them today. But he went back to work, exemplifying what his mother had taught him. Your work and your nation is your priority.
Absolutely correct. As you have mentioned that so many people have taken political pot shots. If you recall, on 30th of October, when this Morbi episode occurred, on 31st October, Prime Minister was at Statue of Unity. And, there he uttered, his first opening statement was कि एक तरफ भावना है, दूसरी तरफ कर्तव्य है. और मेरा ये कर्तव्य है कि मुझे सरदार पटेल के इस समारोह में भी उपस्थित रहना है, क्योंकि so many IAS probationers were also there, and Sardar Patel Statue of Unity, it was a mandatory thing that Prime Minister was supposed to be there. And similarly, आज उन्होंने ये प्रूव करके दिखाया that भावना क्या होती है, कर्तव्य क्या होता है. At 10:30, he was giving Mukhagni to his mother, and at 11:30 he was giving green signal to Vande Bharat train. But if you recall, what he has written in his blog in June 2022 and said that, this would be a very memorable year because, centenary year of my mother. In that blog, he has written that my mother is my guru. And I think that the policy of Mr. Narendra Modi, because in that blog, he has written that, their roof was leaking. Yeah. Their roof was leaking, and mother used to put buckets and, utensils. And the same utensils and same water she would use because, in their village, there was no water. For getting a potable water, his mother had to go 4 to 5 kilometers and she would fetch a water in bucket and in ghada, we call it in Gujarati. The thing is that, if you see his Swasthya Abhiyan, his Sauchalay program, because his sister and mother was staying in one room and there was no washroom, restroom adjoining to their house, and in the wee hours they have to go outside village. So he has seen this, the plight of women. He has started this Nal Se Jal program. Right. He said that, har ek ko ghar ka ghar milna chahiye, every person. And, his mother believed that, sadhu sant and all poor people should be fed. If you recall the story of that Abbas, these all things, if you see that Narendra Modi's policy has imbibed all these things, I think mother's role was very important.
If you have risen from humble backgrounds, you understand the problem of ordinary citizens, and more importantly, you have lived the problems of an ordinary citizen, and that is why you're able to frame policies and solutions about so-called non-glamorous issues, which is to provide a toilet in every household, which became one of the flagship schemes of this government. I want to go across to Tushar as well, who's with us on the broadcast. Tushar, what a wonderful journey Hiraba, exemplifies. She's an inspiration to, I think, millions of women across this country who work very hard to raise their families, who work very hard to give their children the right kind of education and values. And her story is an example that you can be successful and you can be very successful.
A story for generations to come, Anusha. We rarely come across such lives that have been so wonderfully lived and that come out with lessons that are for the generations. I mean, today it was not just the Prime Minister or his party or his close aides who were mourning, it was the entire country that woke up to the very somber, very tragic news of a demise, of a sad demise. And until last night, everyone was praying for her speedy recovery. And this just gets to show the kind of love and admiration and the respect she had from every Indian there is. And, she lived for 100 years. And Prime Minister on Twitter, when he posted that very sad message, he said that I visited her on her 100th birthday. And she told me in something in Gujarati, and it translates into that work with your mind and live life with purity. And that, I think, is one of the key lessons that the entire country today would probably be introspecting or thinking about. And that's the lesson the Prime Minister has led his life with, his governance with. And it's something that we all can just sit and admire and take inspiration from.
Tushar, talking about, the story that Hiraba leaves behind, what a wonderful woman. I mean, look at her grit. She was 100 years old, but she would go out and cast her vote. If there was a line for withdrawing cash during demonetization, it was her son who took that bold step. She would stand in the queue. She would take autos or would be seen using public transport. She lived her life the way she wanted to. She didn't like the power corridors. She wanted to stay simple. She stayed simple.
Absolutely. Look, she had, given what her son achieved, to us, he's the Prime Minister. To her, it was her son. Yeah. And given what her son achieved, no one in India has earned that kind of admiration and power, but he had. And still, she wanted to be in her homeland. She wanted to be in her hometown with her people. And she was living a very simple life. Even when the pictures with the prime minister used to come out, they denoted simplicity. It wasn't something very fancy. It wasn't about the security cordons. It wasn't about the VIP arrangement. It was just her with her son, with their simple khichdi and other, routine things. It was all very homely. It was all very simple. It was something the Indians could resonate with. Yeah. It wasn't political. It wasn't about the optics. It was all very homely. It was all something we could all understand. It was a cultural bond people had built over a period of time, over the last decade, with Prime Minister's mother. And that is something today we all are thinking about personally at our own respective ends.
Absolutely. Geeta, I'm coming back to you. The Prime Minister has a special fan following when it comes to the women voter base in this country. And I think that's for a reason. Because a lot of his policies, schemes, the direct benefit, I know in certain pockets of Gujarat where there are direct benefits which are going in, especially in the milk belt, the benefits go to the women of the household and they run the entire show. Because he knows that if the money goes to the women, it will be served to the entire family. He understands the pulse of women. He understands that women are running the country and the households. And all of that comes from a very hard-working mother who has worked relentlessly to raise a family, to give her children the right kind of education and upbringing.
Yes, you see, he had personally witnessed that the kind of struggles that women face, in small towns, in villages. And that is what probably has driven him to most of the welfare schemes that have been started in the last 8-9 years. They have been very, very woman centric, and a large chunk of even the in the Prime Minister Awas Yojana, a large chunk of allocation of these houses that is being done to women. So much so that even thinking of them, that how in small villages where there is no cooking gas, how they need to be, it has to be a smoke-free cooking for the women who are in villages. How this scheme was started where free cylinders were to be given to women, and almost 9 crore women have been benefited by this. So it was not just, it was through the woman of the house, it was the whole family that is being benefited. Same with the Mudra Yojana. Large percentage of the beneficiaries of Mudra Yojana, they are women beneficiaries across the country. So it was, in a way, the way he saw his mother, struggle to meet the ends, and the kind of hardships that she faced while bringing him up and his other brothers and sisters. That is what, in a way, motivated him in, I think, making a lot of policies which are very much woman-oriented. And also, to see him that, just as he completed the last rites and the rituals of his own mother, he immediately then decided to continue serving his other mother, this nation. So that itself, I think, it is a motivation, and this is something that will definitely bring a lot of compassion
and inspiration to a lot of people watching. Talking about the story of Hiraba, Savio, I'm coming back to you. For a substantial period, when the Prime Minister was making his way up, he was in the RSS, he was serving in different parts of the country. He stayed away from his family for a very long time. But like children would stay away from their parents at different occasions, that never blurs the bond, that never in any way dilutes the bond of a son with a mother. And that was the case here as well.
I completely agree with you. I mean, what you need to look at, let's look at the trials and tribulations that Prime Minister Modi went through. Now, it was not an easy journey for him to the top position, and it's not an easy journey for him to stay at the top position. So you had allegations of him of being called the Maut Ka Saudagar, links to the Godhra rights that were being raised, and now the Supreme Court has passed its own verdict on it. Imagine the state of a mother going through that. And yet, in all the trials and tribulations that Prime Minister Modi went through, on all the allegations, all the name calling, he has still come out strong, and he is working focusedly towards what India needs, towards the growth of India. And you had his mother holding his hands throughout these trials and tribulations, because that is exactly what a mother does. A mother is the one who provides the nurturing, provides the strength, provides the conditioning of the mind that is required for a child. And that is why today, if Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of India and is a tall leader, a tall global leader, the entire credit must go to his mother, Hiraben Modi, because she has stood rock solid behind him when the world at times were throwing stones at Narendra Modi. And why is it important? It is important today to understand in a largely patriarchal society like India, and let me say that as openly as possible, we forget the role of a mother.
We take it for granted. I think we take it for granted. We take it for
Yes,
granted, the lovely things our mothers do for us.
And we tend to think that maybe the person has achieved a lot of what he's done because of what character he has
And you know,
traits he has.
that's
But we
one
forget
reason. That's
the
one
role
reason
of the mother in
that
conditioning a
I
child.
continue to highlight the role of mothers like Hiraba, who have worked silently and relentlessly. Ajayji, I have last 2 minutes on the show. The journey of Hiraba, what does it exemplify for the generations to come? You know, quote unquote, nothing extraordinary, but I think what she's achieved is beyond extraordinary. She's raised her family very well. She lived her life to the fullest, and she has a son who is now the Prime Minister of the country. More importantly, her life exemplified the wonderful virtues that our country is known for. Simplicity.
Not only simplicity, she belongs to an ordinary family, but she was an extraordinary person. I'll tell you, and what Modi ji learned from her. You know, I distinctly remember when Mr. Modi became Chief Minister in 2002, and I'm sharing you the story. In 2003, I wrote a report published by Oxford Publication saying this, that in Human Development Index, Gujarat is, lacking far behind. And he was very upset when he came to know that in his own Mehsana district, it was a skewed gender inequality ratio. So he started, Beti Bachao program. He started, he posed all the gynecologists that, medical termination of pregnancy should not happen. And he asked police department and home department to take strict action. And then, he said that, prenatal care and postnatal care should be taken care of all. He given a special task to Anandiben Patel, who is now, governor of Uttar Pradesh. And he found out that why there is dropout ratio among girl child. And then they found in a survey which was conducted by a very reputed agency that, girls after entering their puberty in 7th or 8th standard, because in remote Gujarat, in rural Gujarat, there were no special rooms or special rooms for girls. So they... in almost in 18 to 20,000 schools, they had a special room for girl children, girl students, and that is the reason
Ajayji, that is how brick by brick, block by block.
These are the reasons.
Yeah, brick by brick, block by block, you create your legacy of development and the work that you have done. And as I end this conversation, I want to thank you all for joining us today evening. And this discussion was rather about celebrating the legacy of Hiraba and our mothers who work behind the scenes to create the success stories that we become eventually in our lives. Well, with that, we're slipping into a very short break. Coming up on the other side, the legendary career of Pele, the king of football, who unfortunately passed away at the age of 82. Stay tuned.
He has ascertained, but yes, what we have been told that he has a fractured leg at this point in time. Also, he has injured his back as well, and also there are injury marks on his face as well. So yes, what we have been told that Rishabh Pant initially dozed off while he was driving that car, and while he was returning from the national capital to his residence. But yes, the kind of injuries that he has sustained is definitely going to take a very, very long time for him to finally recuperate and join back the Indian team. But yes, the good news at this point in time is that he is in a very, very stable conditions, and the team of doctors that is looking into the entire matter are also very, very confident that he would be discharged from the hospital in the next few weeks, is what we have been told. But yes, the kind of incident that has happened, that has definitely sent shock waves across the globe, because remember, Rishabh Pant is a very, very popular figure and has a lot of friends when it comes to the cricket fraternity itself, because the manner in which he has been contributing to the Indian team from behind the stumps has definitely he has been able to make a lot of fans, and the kind of innings that he has played for the Indian cricket team in very, very crucial matches where he has come out and single-handedly won matches for India. So his fans are also praying that Rishabh Pant recovers at the earliest. But yes, currently the situation that it seems that yes, he has a lot of injuries, and it is going to take a very, very long time for him to recover back and get back on the playing field.
पर खच्चे उड़ गए हैं, पूरी तरह से जल गई है, आगे का हिस्सा जो है वो गाड़ी का पूरी तरह से जलकर खाक है। एक बहुत बड़ा जो है वो नुकसान यहाँ पर हो सकता था, लेकिन राहत की बात यह है कि जो खतरे से बाहर है ऋषभ, डॉक्टर्स की टीम जो है अभी तक उनको एग्जामिन कर पाई है। उसके बाद यही जानकारी दे रही कि पैर में उनके चोट है, थाई पोर्शन में जो है वो उनके यहाँ पर चोट लगी है, इसलिए हड्डी के जो डॉक्टर्स हैं वो लगातार उनको देख रहे हैं, उनके टेस्ट कुछ अभी होने बाकी हैं। इसके अलावा प्लास्टिक सर्जन, जैसा कि सर पे चोट के जो वीडियोस निकलकर सामने आ रहे हैं, जो जानकारी दी जा रही है, हल्की उनके सर पर चोट है और उसके लिए प्लास्टिक सर्जन की जो टीम है वो यहाँ पर देख रही है। लेकिन हाँ, जो और अदर बॉडी पार्ट्स हैं उनके बारे में अभी ये कहा जा रहा है कि वो टेस्ट के बाद ही कुछ कह पाएंगे। लेकिन हाँ, राहत की खबर यह है कि खतरे से बाहर है ऋषभ पंत। उनके तमाम फैंस जो हैं वो इस बात के लिए ईश्वर का शुक्रिया अदा कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि जो परेशानी जैसे इस खबर को मिली थी कि उनका ये एक्सीडेंट हुआ, जैसी तस्वीरें हम सब ने देखी, उसके बाद सभी लोग परेशान हो गए थे। उसके बाद रुड़की से उन्हें यहाँ लाया गया, उसके बाद सभी लोग परेशान हो गए थे। टीम यहाँ पर पूरी अंदर मौजूद है, चाहे पुलिस की टीम की बात कर ली जाए या प्रशासन की टीम की बात कर ली जाए, सभी लोग अंदर मौजूद हैं और डिटेल जानकारी यहाँ पर ली जा रही है। जी,
those visuals on your screen not only show the moment of the accident, the aftermath, and of course Rishabh Pant now recuperating. We're given to understand, Anupam, that the Chief Minister himself is also personally monitoring. We had a statement coming to the fore from Pushkar Singh Dhami's office as well.
Yeah, of course, CM is out of station today. He's in Kolkata to attend a meeting, but he has issued a statement and he has said since Rishabh also belongs to Uttarakhand and he's a famed cricketer as well as a brand ambassador of the state. So whatever help is needed from the government side, the state will provide all the help. And if he's needed to be airlifted to another higher center, or say at Delhi or some other hospital, if the family agrees, then the state will provide all the help. This was CM as a shot to Rishabh and his family members.
Yes, that assurance coming to the fore for the family members of Rishabh Pant. We also had messages pouring in on social media from cricketers, from his teammates, from former cricketers as well, going on to wish him speedy recovery. VVS Lakshman was in fact one of the first people to have actually come out on social media and confirmed that he was out of danger and that he had spoken to someone who was monitoring the situation. Now, as far as the accident in itself goes, Anupam, I believe we do not have that line with my colleague there. We'll get you more details, but these are visuals on your screens of the moment of the accident where at a high speed, Rishabh Pant's Mercedes-Benz GL series crashes into that divider. This is at Mohammadpur Jat area where he was en route Roorkee, perhaps to spend the New Year's in his hometown, which is Roorkee. He was traveling there at 5:30 a.m. this morning is when his car hit that divider, and the aftermath is what you see on the left of your screens where you see a fireball. That's really what happened after the car hit the divider. Rishabh Pant though had managed to come out of his car before it was reduced to ashes, before it turned into that huge fireball that we now see. Immediate assistance was provided to him and he was taken to the hospital, first in Roorkee, then to Rishikesh. Now we're given to understand he is being brought to the Max Hospital in Dehradun where he is recuperating, and the health bulletin is expected shortly. But for now, we can tell our viewers and for all of Rishabh Pant's fans that he is out of danger. He does though have certain injuries to his back and to his leg. Anshul, my colleague, is now with me for more on this. Anshul, do we know if his family members are now in Dehradun? What's the situation like there?
So yes, the family members are in Dehradun and are currently in the hospital is what we have been told, and also the CCTV visuals that we have managed to access, it clearly shows that the car in which Rishabh Pant was
Welcome back. You're watching Brass Tacks. It was truly a tragic Friday. Brazilian football legend and one of the greatest athletes ever, Pele, passed away at the age of 82 after a long battle with cancer. We leave you with the life and times of the original king of football. Have a look and thank you for watching.
When the world knows you by just one name, you have truly succeeded. Pele is regarded by many as the greatest footballer of all time. His humble demeanour and generous spirit have guaranteed his legacy as a global icon.
This is a big responsibility, you know. I feel very comfortable because something I cannot answer was why God gave me this, this gift. This was a gift from God, and I try to be in my best. I try to respect people. I try to prepare myself. I try to be always in good shape. The most important, respect people.
Raised in the slums of Sao Paulo in the 1940s, Edson Arantes de Nascimento discovered football at a young age. He made his debut for Santos at the age of just 16, and within a year he was scoring goals for the Brazilian national team. By this time he was better known by his nickname, Pele, and in 1958, at 17, he became the youngest man to play in a World Cup final, scoring twice as Brazil beat Sweden. It was the first of 3 world titles he'd helped win for his country. He electrified audiences with his fancy footwork and ability to score seemingly impossible goals, so it was something of a disappointment that his 1000th goal was a penalty.
A friend of mine, he's a comic guy in Brazil. He say, listen, God stopped the game because everyone has to see your 1000 goal. That's the reason it was the penalty kick.
After his goal, the game against Vasco da Gama was stopped for several minutes to celebrate his landmark achievement. In 1967, Pele learned that he and his team had the power to stop other things too, when their visit to Nigeria prompted warring factions to call a 48-hour ceasefire in the country's civil war.
We stopped war because the people were so crazy for football. So they love football. They stopped the war to see Santos play in Africa. This is a fantastic, it's something you cannot explain.
By the time Pele retired as a footballer in 1977, playing his final years for the Cosmos in New York, he'd amassed a career total of 1,281 goals. For Pele, that was half a lifetime ago, but his infectious love of the game ensured that he remained relevant. He served as a UN ambassador for ecology and the environment. He rubbed shoulders with state leaders all over the world, and he received an honorary knighthood from Queen Elizabeth in 1997. And who could forget his appearance in the cult movie Escape to Victory?
Kobe, after giving me ball, here I do these, go. Easy.
When he starred alongside Michael Caine and Sylvester Stallone, playing a prisoner of war who scored a spectacular, morale-boosting goal in a game against the Germans.
I think, first of all, is a gift from God. Second, I think it was a lot of hard work and training. And I have to say thanks to God, because my father was a football player, was a center forward. And then my father was a very, perfectionist, And then everything who I used to do, I tried to do, he used to say, listen, you must be better than that.
He's always been a global icon, but in his native Brazil, he'll always be regarded as a national treasure. His passing is cause for national mourning, and as he so humorously put it himself, there will never be another Pele.
To be the new Pele would be very difficult, because my mother and my father, they closed the machine.